Hari Om, Namaste. Welcome everybody to our podcast of Practical Vedanta. Today we have a distinguished Acharya, Acharya Andre, who is based in Australia and has been on the path of teaching Vedanta for a few years now. We know that he has a website by the name Yes Vedanta that first drew us to the work that it showcased, wherein there was such a well-defined approach towards bringing out Vedanta in its authentic form and also emphasizing on what it is about and what it is not about. So impressed by that, we are very fortunate that we have him here today with us to speak about his journey into Vedanta and also share with us the insights he has learned while being on the path of Vedanta. Namaste and welcome to you, Andre.
Namaste, Sangeeta. Hi, all.
A little bit about the Vedanta Study Circle of Boston. So the Vedanta Study Circle of Boston was established a couple years back to provide a platform for serious seekers on the path of Vedanta to get together, learn, share their knowledge, and to uplift each other in their spiritual journey. In our study circle, we have members from all over the country join us. We have students coming from different lineages, learned from different masters to join, share their knowledge, and learn from each other. We organize regular in-person Vedanta retreats as well as virtual Zoom sessions with spiritual gurus and Vedanta teachers of different lineages from around the globe. The goal is to truly understand and have the eternal light of Vedanta illumining our path and our daily lives while contributing positively to the society and world around us. With this, I welcome you again, Andre. And just to give a small introduction that
Okay.
I would want to start off. On his website, we learned that Andre had a remarkable background. Coding. By 18, it was a clear two-part vision to face life's challenges with unshakable persistence and to build financial security that would provide lasting peace of mind. This vision became my North Star as I poured every ounce of energy into a wholesale retail venture. The business journey resembled a roller coaster, exhilarating successes followed by gut-wrenching setbacks, negotiations that tested my resolve, and expensive decisions that kept me awake at night. By my 30th birthday, the scorecard showed remarkable success. Owner of a multi-million-dollar enterprise that had secured my financial future. Yet, standing at this summit of achievement, the fulfillment I hoped for remained elusive. The internal voice, seeking more, continued its restless whispers. While the external world transformed dramatically, my inner experience about self remained unchanged. I believe it is at this point, Andre, you have the turning point. If you could please lead us into it and tell us a little bit about how you went forward.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that background. I often feel shy to do so myself because it's like talking about us being a high schooler and saying we were the fastest runner, we were the best in mathematics. That is true, but at the same time, it's been a long time, so there's not much of a connection there. But that is true. So thank you, Sangeeta. So I can't really add much to that, except that I was born in an ordinary family, a little bit religious. There's nothing special, not extremely religious. But I think one thing that really helped me was my dad taught me to think, no matter what I wanted. He never gave me any pocket money at all. So so my first money was when I was 17. I had to work. But until then, you can imagine by 17 years, you've got so many desires. You want to have, your little toys and whatever it is. And so until then, my dad just said, think, son, think how to get it. What would you have to do to, earn it? So I think my dad, in that sense, implanted that seed to really use my mind, this instrument, to think, how do I navigate this world and make it on my own? And I think it seems unconnected, but it's extremely connected actually to life and Vedanta and any kind of philosophy. So I think by 18, I started to get into a lot of personal development and business because it was a very fascinating world. So after coming to Australia, it was a whole world opened up, like so many books. And my first salary, I bought a mega memory course, how to remember really well. And that was amazing. It was cassette tapes, if we remember those, 16 tapes.
Once upon
And
a
it
time, yes.
was about loci of memory. So you put different items on the house list in your mind, on your body. The pegging system, how to memorize poetry. So this was really opening up a world of what I can use with this instrument. Until then, before 18, it was just a kid playing computer games and so on. So it was this explosion of knowledge. And as you said, it was a business venture because the whole world perception after being involved with these books, saying that the world is really a place to learn. It's a place to work out your stuff. And so I started to think very positively. So this caused a little bit of conflict with the way that my family saw things, which is more traditional. And I thought, I cannot quite grow in my house here. I have to move out. So this caused me to now switch from personal development into business. And so I got online, and it was a very fascinating world back then, 2004, where eBay was just getting off. There was no competition, and there was a lot of innocence there, and you could just easily find a product that sells really well with a high demand and just resell it over and over again. And one specialty that I had was copywriting. Copywriting is the ability to use words in a way that sells. And so this was my advantage. So I wrote a lot of sales letters for baby cots, for jewelry, for diamonds, for all sorts of things. And it was doing very, very well. And as you said, this went for years. I also had a hosting company. I bought that, and we went up to 1 million visitors. And there were a lot of hackers because it was a free hosting company. So sometimes you have these hackers who are creating these phishing websites, Facebook fake websites, banking websites. So I had the police calling me to shut down the websites. So there's a lot of activity in the realm of hosting, in the realm of programming. And then, so then by 30, everything that I thought you're supposed to have, I had it. Like there was nothing that I had girlfriends, I had fiance, I've had all of that. And I looked at my life realistically and I said, okay, this is wonderful. I mean, there's no, I wouldn't even call it happy or not happy, just observant. And I said, okay, this is wonderful, Andre. And, you had all these visions, but here I am. I'm the same person. So things are not that great, they're not they're okay, but they're not extraordinary. So I guess this then caused me to shift into spirituality. And I went to Amazon, to the jungle, and I had at 26, actually, I had my first, what do I call it? Ayahuasca, which is like it changes your state of mind. And that was amazing. That shifted my whole life around. Because for the first time, I saw what it means to be outside the body. So I saw the body there lying down. I went through an hour of forgiveness because I always forgive other people. But then this wisdom said, Andre, what about yourself? Have you forgiven yourself? And I realized, my goodness, I've been so harsh on myself all these years, working hard, totally neglecting this person. So the whole process got me to soften up a little bit, to remove those rigidities, those angularities that we have, those kind of harshness that we have towards ourselves. And then I came back, and this really accelerated my journey towards the meaning of oneness. And this propelled me to search the vision of how do I hold this oneness. I mean, it's easy to have this during Amazon, where you're definitely in that samadhi, because it induces a samadhi. But how do I understand this and recognize it to be true all the time? And so this is where my journey continued. I went to Arunachala, who I honored many years, Ramana Maharishi. And there was a seminar there for 25 days on the Bhagavad Gita, which, by the way, I've never heard before. I mean, maybe I have. I mean, I'm sure I have. But it was just not, it was not prominent in my mind. And the Gita, I think the advantage was that when a Westerner hears this, and they've already done their purification of the mind, and they've already gone through discernment and business and taking care of customers and knowing that whole spirit of contribution, they'll come in with a relatively qualified mind. So I heard this, and I had no prior references to cause effect, to awareness, to consciousness. I had no prior established notions. So it was a brand new, fresh, available to listen, open to understand without any judgments whatsoever. And this was wonderful, because it shows you the power of how much it is important not to have preconceived notions that can override this knowledge. And so after 25 days, I walked out depressed, actually, because I realized how little I knew, because the knowledge was so huge. It was all 18 chapters crammed into 25 days. And I thought, my goodness, I read so many spiritual books. I've been in years in Buddhism, Mahayana, and Neo-Vedanta. I've been years in this. And now I'm coming out with all this structure and these methodologies, these prakriyas. I don't know anything. And I committed myself to lock myself for 1 year. And I spent about 10 to 12 hours per day studying every single word of what the Gita was saying, because it was just so new, so fresh, so healing. The words were so expansive that I had to understand everything that Krishna was saying. And during that 1 year, a lot of changes took place, and reorientation of the world perception took place. And also I found another teacher from the Dayananda lineage, got involved with Chinmaya, also 2 years there. So all of that now took place. Besides that 1 year, it extended in 3 years on average. And also doing Sanskrit for about 3 or 4 or 5 hours, sometimes per day. So it was a lot of education that just took place. And I thought, after things became very, very clear, and I thought, I have to share this. It was not a decision that my mind makes. It's just a spontaneous outpouring. This has to be shared. There's no who wants to share this because I have an agenda. It's that this needs to come out. This needs to be shared because of the value that it can provide to those who are sincere, and I mean really sincere, looking for the answer, looking for structure, looking for a methodology that makes sense, that builds up step by step by step. No nonsense, no little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. And we're wondering, how does it all connect? Just here's the whole vision. to help you see who you are, what is reality, what's my connection to all things.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this must be shared. And so this is how the journey began.
Mm-hmm.
So some years later, here we are.
Wonderful and fascinating. Thank you for sharing those details. You mentioned two things struck me in what you just shared. I'm curious to know what brought you to Arunachala of all the places in the first place, and why did you take to Ramana Maharshi the way you did?
I think that Ramana, see, that's an interesting, I can't quite answer that because there are many variables. But I think the book I Am That, Ramana's talks, it just spoke inside like this is so important, but I was afraid to approach it for a long time. There was some fear, like this is so above me. This is like up there.
Mm.
And so when this teacher was giving commentaries in his book, he wrote it was a book called Arunachala. And
Mm-hmm.
there was an interview
Mm-hmm.
between a teacher who was giving commentaries about what Ramana has said, what he meant when he said, I am the self.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this person is able to have commentaries about Ramana. Ramana is like the ultimate for me, the most enlightened person there is. And so I have to meet this person. Who is this teacher? And he
Ah.
was doing it. He was doing that 25-day seminar
Mm-hmm.
at Arunachala.
Mm-hmm.
That's the seminar that I attended. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is why the connection was there. But I think the reason why I got the book was my girlfriend told me to buy a book at that time because I
Mm-hmm.
never bought books. I always bought digital. And she says, Andre, you're making these bookstores poor because you never spend any money on books.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I will buy just one book. And I bought Arunachala. And a few months later, we broke up because the only thing I could think about was Mokṣa. So I could not be present. I could not be present with this woman, no matter what we did. And it was
Right.
a wonderful relationship. There was nothing wrong. It was very beautiful. But the urge for Mokṣa was just so overwhelming that the only thing that mattered to me was just figuring things out. And
Wow.
so after I made that hardest decision in my life to break up, um, somehow the next thing I did was just open up that book, Arunachala,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw that interview.
Mm-hmm.
And thus I found the website and I went to the seminar. And so this is how the connections, cause effects happen.
Wonderful. Wow.
Thank
And
you,
this
Ishwar, in the form of girlfriend, in the form of
yes.
honeymoon.
And how old were you around this when this happened?
Uh, I think 29, 29 to 30.
Pretty young, yes. Uh-huh. And so from there on, as I understand, that was the turning point in your journey once you visited Arunachala, as you mentioned, and then the 25-day seminar, and that opened up the path of Vedanta, if I may say so, right?
That was finally the entry into a proper methodology, a methodical approach to the
Mhm.
whole learning. So that was from then on, I never again opened a single page of Neo Vedanta, of all those people that I was studying. Not one page that I ever opened again because there was just no need to. Because
Amazing.
Vedanta is just, it says everything they say, plus he has a structure to it. And so there was just no reason to go back.
Amazing. And what would you say made that very clear to you at that point? I know you mentioned you had a background in Mahayana Buddhism and Neo-Vedanta and all of it. So what, I mean, if you can recall, what made it very clear to you that this has it all that you were searching for?
Yeah, I think what makes it clear is our viveka, our ability to understand what has no gaps, what can I not contradict,
Ah,
what speaks to that inner discerner, which
mm,
is why I want to connect this back to business world. Business world requires extreme amounts of discernment, of
mm,
testing numbers and working things, what's working and what's not. So maybe it has some connection to that. So this is why I'm not a guy who discards anything of worldly nature, as long as it has, it trains you to be, mindful and conscious and deliberate, then you can go a long way in the journey of figuring things. Who am I?
Wonderful. True.
Yeah,
I would say that's certainly like a stepping stone towards building something greater.
absolutely.
And all these experiences build, as you said, the viveka in you, which ultimately lead you towards discerning what is the highest path. And from there on, you mentioned that it gave you a quote unquote path to moksha, which is all you were seeking at that time, right? I mean, it yeah, you did not have a doubt in your mind that the path is right for what you are seeking.
Yeah, it's amazing. And again, I can't explain it. Why is it like that? I guess it's just a culmination of so many things there's many things we figure out
Mm,
what's working. Uh,
mm,
and coming back to our original default state, that means
mm,
I thought this is it. I thought sound healing was it. I thought, um, getting, ayahuasca was it. I thought, doing some chanting was it. So
mm,
we go through kind of deduction process and we say, okay, so I've spent genuinely all of my time, as much time as I could in one thing,
mm,
excluding everything else. And I was genuinely involved in it. And I said, okay,
mm,
now let's try something else. Let's do if this is working. And then we kind of contrast that and say, okay, so this is closer to what feels more keeping with peace. This is giving more peace and more it makes more sense.
mm,
So like this, we do deduction process, and this
mm,
requires again a certain kind of deliberate, conscious, willing and committed mind. This is a huge thing. It's not easy. It does require a lot of hard work. So there's no question of laziness or shortcuts or taking whatever these small, techniques. They're wonderful. They're great stepping stones, but ultimately it's going to be hard work because anything of greatness came from hard work. Nothing comes by accident. There's a certain that we don't see behind the scenes how much hard work took place and sincerity and genuine commitment to make
mm,
something happen. So this is, worthy of putting out so that we don't think that these are just sort of, carryovers from past life and you're so lucky and,
mm,
I don't have it your way. You should see my life, so there's
mm,
not one person. We all have it hard. There's not one person who's got it smooth and polished out.
mm,
So
mm,
based on what we're confronted with, we have
mm,
to now make the best of it and figure things out.
mm, mm, mm. Wonderfully put, yes. Uh, I was wondering what would be your answer to some people who have this notion that until they make their first million or multi-million, they shouldn't be approaching the path of Vedanta. Or to put it in other words, they feel that only when, you have got all your needs met and your ego has fulfilled its task of worldly achievements, must you go towards the path of Vedanta. What is your response to that?
I think there is a certain truth to Vanaprastha in the third stage in the Veda, which is not to be taken literally, but figuratively or metaphorically. What it wants to say is, this is one way of looking at it. Before you go and attack your the personality and the truth and what is what, who's attacking
Mm,
the mind? Now,
mm,
what's the quality of that mind? What experience does it have? Has it learned to fall down, to get up, and not once, but how many times? Many times, hopefully. Now, if it's one time, then I go in with this certain attitude of overconfidence because I only fell down once, I got up, I'm
mm, mm,
great. So if I
mm,
go with that sort of partial view of my abilities, then I'll struggle in spirituality. And I'll say, this is not working. Let me go somewhere else now. So
mm,
the quality of the mind is crucial. Now,
mm,
I wouldn't say that, being a business owner is the only qualifier for that. there are many things. There are accountants, there are those who work in the government agencies. Everywhere, any job can be a blessing if you choose to turn it that way. It's never about the history of what the person did. It's always about what am I doing right now, and by what approach, what attitude am I confronting it right now? I'll give you an example, something tangible. So I
Yes.
love customer service, and I used to get around 150 to 300 emails per day. And I just love to answer questions. Now, as a young guy who's, very kind of rajasic and, wants to show them that I'm always right. So I had a car company, and I still have one. It's still running for, I think, 15 years now. And there are a lot of these younger people, who wants to tune the car performance. That means make their car go faster. So I build a software that hacks into the car's ECU, the chip, and it optimizes performance and offer the software for that. So a lot of them just want, their stuff like right now. And so they're like, okay, give me a refund. This is not working. And then it's just not polite language, because there's so many car models, millions of car models, and you cannot create support for every single car model. And so, they kind of force these refunds. And I was like, no, who do you think you're talking to? I will show you that, you can't speak like this. And I sent that message. Now, in me, my inner conscience says, this is not going to be a good thing, Andre. You're not going to get a good reply. But I'm like, so what? And then they reply like even worse now, plus a chargeback on your PayPal account or your Stripe account. So slowly through the time, I learned, okay, so Andre, you cannot work like this. I mean, you can, but how do you feel 5 days later after they send you this email? Do you feel good? Absolutely not. And that stays with me. So it damages my own well-being. And I thought about this. So I've got no choice here. Ultimately, I've got no choice, because on one hand, I like to run businesses. On the other hand, I'm damaging, it's not even about them. It's about how do I feel at the end of the day. And so I thought, okay, so let me turn this into a spiritual practice. So I said, okay, so whenever I have a rude email, irrational, calling me names, I mean, just every like word you can imagine. So, and plus refund, plus they call their PayPal, they want me to, my account shut down. So it's like, they want you destroyed completely. And so I thought, okay, so I've got no choice. Let me see that this person is a human being, just like me. They want happiness just like me. They have a mind and have a family just like me. They just want their problems resolved just like me. We have so much in common. And if I were to meet them tomorrow, I would have probably had a great time with them, just talking about the weather and ordinary things. So I thought, let me try to change my attitude a little bit. And so this became a spiritual practice. So now
Beautiful.
what's the point of saying this? You say, oh, you have this and this. It doesn't matter what we have. The question is, what am I doing with what I have right now? Am I treating it like another mundane thing, or it's just there to reinforce my existing old patterns? Or can I make a deliberate decision and say, let's use the very thing that's bugging me and let's turn that into a spiritual practice? I don't need the Gita for that. I don't need personal, it's just common sense. But this is exactly what the Gita is saying. So it's just affirming what's already natural if you come to think about it. So in that sense, to get back to the thread, everything can be a wonderful thing. So I encourage all of us, myself, you, our dear viewers, just to ask, what am I doing right now? And in what way can this very thing become an amazing practice so that we can, that I can grow and change, so I can transform how anything in our lives, no matter what it is. It's not about it being a problem. We are making it a problem because we are looking at it from a wrong approach. So anything that is challenging can become a means to develop your mind, to develop your emotional well-being, to develop your connection to yourself, and to learn those very things that the Gita keeps on reminding us, like yajna, it's an offering. I'm offering the best I can to my dear audience. Now, what am I offering? Am I offering hatred, or am I offering understanding? Am I offering a certain well-being? I want to help them out. And even if they don't respond well, at least you can say, you know what? I came with a good intention. I'm safe. Even if they respond to me if the results are terrible, I still have a safety net. And I say, you know what? I came from a genuine place. I tried to help you, just like Krishna tried to help Karna and say, come back to your dear brothers. Karna didn't listen to the Lord of the universe, who's all knowledge, all power. So how did Krishna walk away? Did he say, oh, he didn't listen to me. How could he? I am the Lord of the universe. I know everything. No, Krishna was completely composed and says, I've done my part. Karna didn't listen. So in that same way, we just do our part. And whatever comes back, you still say it doesn't matter, because the way that I approached the situation was my spiritual work. My work is done. If they don't want to respond well, that is their journey. So this can keep us very composed. We call this, as you know, samatvam. So samatvam is not some special thing, being totally stoic, which is not possible, but rather just having a certain attitude that I come from good intentions. If people don't like me, I still came from a good intention. I have no desire to injure anyone, to injure myself, to injure my dear listeners. That is what I understand, and that is true. If the other cannot see that, I'm sorry that you can't see that, but you probably missed the chance to connect to someone that genuinely wanted to reach their hand out and help you out. So,
Wonderful. Actually, a matter of fact, I did go over some of the videos that you have on the Bhagavad Gita, uh, where you're teaching certain chapters and certain verses. And it was remarkable to note that you mentioned at the outset that what you are not looking to do is to do a mere academic pursuit of what was said in the Gita. And your desire is to make sure that each person who comes to your classes goes back and tries to figure out how is it making me feel, and how is this helping me in the way I respond to different situations in life. And in particular, you do mention that, has it succeeded in bringing compassion in my mind and sympathy in my mind towards those who disagree with me? So I thought it was a wonderful range of checkpoints that you brought in your approach to teach the Gita. And
yeah.
that brings me to ask you, what, according to you, Andre, now that you have entrenched yourself so deeply and so beautifully in sharing the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, and you want to keep it practical as it is meant to be, because Krishna taught it, after all, in a battlefield, not in a philosophizing panel. So, what, according to you, if I may ask, are the two or three most outstanding gifts or messages of the Bhagavad Gita?
I think the first is 326, which says that the wise person, how does a wise person respond to those who are still disagreeing with or discarding the scriptures, or saying how it is and the scriptures are useless? So how does a wise person carry themselves in reference to the people that he or she is with? And he says it doesn't disturb them. He or she doesn't disturb them. So what this means for me is that how can I meet you where you're at? And this is a big learning lesson for me. It still is a learning lesson. I'm not 80 years old, so I've got 40, 50 plus years of learning.
Yes.
So for me, meeting the person where they're at is very important, because it means that I need to put my own notions aside, my sense of righteousness, or trying to kind of, overpower them, or, show some superiority. I think there's still this tendency that sometimes we can sort of a little bit, fall into this. So what's important for me from the Gita is to have an example. What is a conduct by which a wise person carries themselves? And that is a good marker. What is the means by which I can help, our dear students, help, confront my parents, confront the world, confront challenges. And that is just do the little that you can with the best intentions that you have, and try not to disturb those who are still looking at it from, an old paradigm, such as the experience is the only thing that matters, knowledge is useless, or this Gita has no relevance at all, the religion is dividing us. And so, an example, I was coming from London, I was on the London train, and on my Europe tour just recently, and it was an old lady sitting next to me. She overheard a conversation between me and my friend. So she loved to talk about her history, and her family during World War II. And that was wonderful. But then I brought some questions about the meaning of life. So immediately the composure changed, because not everyone's comfortable with that. And she said, that I have no meaning, there is no meaning in life. There is, it's just how it is. You just, you live, and then whatever, you just, die. And that was an opportunity when one would usually just come in and say, no, let me now teach you how it is, right? And I didn't do that, because that's what the Gita reminded me to do. Just be okay. Even if this person who I was sitting next to was 80 years old or something, maybe 75. It doesn't matter. Just meet them where they're at. And so I continued to speak where they're at. Okay, let me go back to your family conversations. So that's the first one. So just to be clear, just recognizing, putting my own this sense of, sometimes meeting a person where they're at is more important than over-explaining. Let's put it that way.
I think that's perfectly put. There needs to be a certain acceptance before any exchange can be productive. And I think that's what you mean by accepting them at where they are. You were saying three key messages of the first being,
I think the second one would be probably how Krishna is in reference to challenges, how he handles when Duryodhana insults him or says he's a great magician who's just there to trick us all in this
Maya.
in this palace, right? Krishna holds himself. He just offers. He sheds light on a matter. He brings light to a topic, and he does what he has to do. He just brings his part out, and he doesn't worry, and he doesn't take it personally when he walks out after someone rejects him or doesn't take the message fully or seriously. He walks out with a certain composure and says, Duryodhana, or whoever Duryodhana is in the modern world, said this and this and this. This is his choice, his understanding. I've done my part, and I can relinquish the need to be concerned or to bear this in my mind. I'm not going to bear this because I have done the best that I possibly could. What the other person does, it is completely up to them. And this was very interesting and empowering for me, because, again, it goes back to how does a wise person like Krishna, who's really clear in his conduct, how does he carry himself and deal with day-to-day challenges and thereby not lose his composure? And so it's not like he carries this fake kind of like, I am above everyone and I'm the Lord of the universe and none of this matters. It's just a one big Leela play. He doesn't do that. He's very down to earth, very normal, grounded. He doesn't philosophize or spiritualize his messages. He just speaks to you like an ordinary person, shares ordinary human emotions, has cheerfulness, is not this stoic Mr. Wise, who doesn't have to smile. He's just so human. And I love this because it's a perfect example for me
Mm.
it's a permission slip that says, Andre, you can be human. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to pretend like you're wise and therefore, you don't respond. You don't experience any human emotions, or you just don't care when somebody hurts you. You don't have to do that. That's fake. Be like Krishna. Just be ordinary human being. Show your emotions. Show your concerns. Show your worry, because that's a lot more honest and that's strength. And I love that message.
Wonderful, wonderful.
It's so like contradicting the spiritual notion of this stoic, unmovable person like a rock, which has a certain truth, of course, I honor that. But there is a down to earthness. It's okay. You can cry, you can worry, you can be concerned, but never lose sight of the vision. And so this is the second one.
Wonderful. So the all-encompassing nature of interaction and exchange in the complete sense of being human versus just being an indifferent stoic is what
Yeah, huge. My goodness, that really touches me. That probably even encompasses the third one. It almost overshadows the third one. The third one can be, I don't know, I think it's just honoring the chapter 7 or chapter 13 models of very clear prakriti, apara prakriti, right? The higher nature, lower nature, kshetra, kshetrajna, the knower, and the knower of the field. So it makes it very lucid. What is what? This is Atma, Anatma, and here's the defining attributes of one of the other. And then it reconciles it using a methodology, Satya Mithya. So it really brings a beautiful reconciliation to differences. And so that for me is like, I can't argue this, because even if I argue it's still within the model. So the model always offers me a way to reconcile how things are and why things are the way they are and how they all resolve into that oneness. And there is no doubt about this. And this is, I think, what spiritual seekers are desperately seeking, and yet they're lacking the models to reconcile the reality. And so it makes them like to listen to these satsangs about oneness. But one can't hold it. One can't understand, how is it that all things resolve into one? How is it that, I'm not different from you? Because I see a difference. But the Gita makes it very clear. There is a difference, but also there is no difference. Like, what do you mean by that? Well, Gita is there for you.
The
So
paradox of language.
So what I want to say with the third one is it makes that final understanding crystal clear, doubtless, and nothing can go beyond it. Even Mahayana Buddhism is wonderful, and I honor them because they're very strong in Mithya, in Neti, negating things. But then the question is, okay, now that I've negated the I sense, the ahamkara, now what? Like, what do I stand on? What's the ground? What's the foundation? Well, no, even negate that. That's another concept. So, and then my mind is like going crazy, and Vedanta fills that last step and says, okay, that foundation is Satyam. That makes you finally relax in who you are. And so it completes the whole vision. That would be number 3.
Absolutely. This is the great point that I can segue into the question of Advaita, because you mentioned oneness so beautifully right now, which is what is being sought. So from your perspective, Andre, though you did explain a part of it right now, how really is Advaita Vedanta different from other non-dual spiritual paths that you came close to? You did mention about this one point where Mahayana Buddhism stops and you see where is the next stone that you could jump. Would you mind elaborating a little more about if you have had any other experiences with other non-dual paths, and then you see that Advaita has this clear difference, which ultimately, brought you
Yeah.
and told you, I have arrived.
I mean, there's probably 2 answers to this. The first is, if you study Ramana Maharishi, he's talking about the highest of the highest. straight to the self, Satyam.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, who is listening to that and who is reading those words? The mind. So now the Vedanta says, well, before you go up there, it makes it very explicit. You have to first qualify your mind. Do I have faith? Do I have viveka? Do I have discrimination? Do I have this passion? And what is this passion? Is this passion being apathetic and cold? No, it's not. It's just recognizing that there is a possibility of both sides. It's not just one or the other. A lot of us, for example, this is what Vedanta will bring out. A lot of us just let clear viveka. We can use our critical thinking skills excellent. But tell me this, what's the point of using critical thinking skills if I'm extremely passionate towards only one view, only one school? That means all of my viveka is going towards one trajectory. Now, Vedanta says you need this passion. This passion is canceling that one view out. You have to understand that the field is the whole, and thus I cannot put the whole into one single narrow pipe. So this passion makes me removes that pipe and says, okay, I have to understand everything and reconcile everything. I have to reconcile both experience and knowledge. So this is the second one now. Now, what do you mean reconcile both? Well, what Vedanta says is, first of all, like this. Before you and I even talk spiritual, we have to first get to common ground. What are we looking for? We both say we're looking for the truth. Excellent. But what is the truth? We have to first define it. Otherwise, you got your own definitions of truth. I've got mine. And so it's all over the place. So Vedanta says the truth is that which Tattva obtains in the past, present, that means right now, and the future equally. It's equally available. It's never not unavailable. It's always the same in the past, present, and the future. And it obtains in all things all the time. That means it obtains in this cup, it obtains in my face, it obtains in the air that I breathe, it obtains in the things that I see right now. That means if I don't define the truth, then what's going to happen is my version of the truth is one thing, and your version of the truth is no, the truth is in Swarga. It's somewhere else. So now the moment you have this definition, then what kind of a lifestyle does that create? That means the truth is not on earth. So this means automatically I'll start discarding everything on earth. This place is just to kind of work out my stuff. The truth, I will go to truth one day over there. So automatically it makes me lower the value of earth experience, lower the value of life itself. But the moment you understand the truth is that which obtains all the time, even here right now and over there, then it immediately locks me and makes me think, well, where is the truth? Can it be only inside? No. That's why we sometimes say, hey, I couldn't find the truth outside. I've been looking outside. Now I'm going to go inside. Look at this. Now they're going from outside to inside. The truth is everywhere. It's both inside and outside. So first thing, we have to see that Vedanta is just showing you that which is already true. It's not showing you anything new. It's something that we knew all along. We just missed it because we don't think about it. And I'll give you a very tangible example. A common objection any teacher has seen is people will say that you need experience. You know, enlightenment or liberation is an experience, an inner experience of Atma Jyoti, right? They will say something like that, the inner light. And then Vedanta will say, you know, it's both. Knowledge doesn't contradict experience, and your experience of the truth has to be aligned with the truth. And then you say, what do you mean by that? It's a little bit confusing. Well, suppose the person says, you know, I don't need knowledge. I don't need the scriptures. For example, happiness. We all know happiness. Happiness is an experience, okay? We all know happiness. I don't need knowledge to know happiness. I got you. I got you. You see, you don't need knowledge because truth is self-revealing, just like happiness. It's self-revealing. But then Vedanta says, you know, I don't disagree with you, but look at this. Is all happiness created equal? No, it's not. Because if I'm happy because I see someone else suffering, that's called impure happiness. That's called tamasic happiness. That means I'm a sadist. That means I'm happy, all right, but happy, it's kind of dirty happiness. So then the scriptures say, you see, there is happiness, but not all happiness equated to the truth. Not all truth is equal. So the scriptures have to now point out there is a different kind of happiness. This is just an example. I'm not saying happiness is the truth. There's a different kind of happiness that is much more pure. And that happiness, for example, seeing the sunlight or not the sunlight, the dawn, right? Or seeing the dusk. And you just have this innocent, pure happiness arise. It's much cleaner than sadistic happiness. Or you see your first child being born. That's a very different kind of happiness. It's a very warm happiness compared to a harsh kind of happiness when I see someone else suffering. So now the scriptures are simply pointing out, you see, have you ever thought about that? And you say, I haven't. So this means I thought I had happiness. I had an experience of happiness and I thought I've reached it. But now the scriptures simply come in and say, no, let's look into that so-called happiness, which we are now equating to the truth. You have experienced happiness, but is it something that is it pure? No, it's not. And then a person thinks about this and says, wow, I never thought about this. This doesn't contradict my experience. Because indeed, there is something called pure happiness. So in that same way, the scriptures say, you know what? I have no doubt you're experiencing the truth. But let's look into what you're experiencing. Is it contaminated? Is it mixed up? Or is it truth, which is that which is obtaining in the past, present, and future? It's always available. It's unchanging, remains equally true tomorrow as much as today, and is always available in every experience that you ever have had and remains as it is. No, I haven't. Therefore, you got some work to do. You see? So what's going back to the thread? What is a defining difference between Vedanta and other non-dual paths? Vedanta brings a certain understanding through the help of the scriptures. It makes it explicitly clear, here's what the truth means. We call it Vastu Tantram. What I understand, what I experience is exactly aligned to the truth which cannot be contradicted upon my investigation, and which has also been well ascertained by those before us, by the rishis. And so I say, so the whole point is, yes, I don't discard my experience, but at the same time, I use the scriptures to verify if my experience is keeping with the truth. That's the uniqueness of Vedanta. So it doesn't throw anything aside. It just puts things in the right place.
I thought that was an excellent explanation, Andre, especially of what the way you describe what would be called as Nirguna Brahman. So perfect. Thank you so much for explaining that. This is beautiful. You mentioned Viveka as one of the key factors. And, speaking of Advaita or Vedanta, we know there are these fourfold qualifications, right? Sadhana Chatushthay, which entail that we need Viveka, Vairagya, the sixfold path, Shar Sampatti, and Mumukshutva as the qualifications to really grasp and understand Vedanta, Advaita's truth. I'm curious to know how you did speak about Viveka and its importance and how it's so relevant. What do you understand by Vairagya, and what does it show up, or rather, how does it show up in your daily life?
Okay. So Vairagya is extremely important and a mark of maturity, because we have many intelligent, as I said before, people with honorable skills and thinking capacities, but they are used in a way that is extremely passionate towards one view at the expense of other views. That means they don't consider other alternative standpoints. So this passion is actually not something that you develop. It's not like I say to you, hey, go and be dispassionate. It's something that comes through looking and working on one's inner resolve, one's inner likes and dislikes. That means I only like this. I don't like that. And why do I only like this? Well, because it gives me a sense of connection. It gives me a sense of love. It gives me a sense of unity, collaboration. And I really crave that because I got none of that in my childhood. So now childhood becomes a means or becomes a cause for me having an extreme passion for one section of spirituality, like being in the company of spiritual seekers. And so I just stay there for a long time, let's talk about various concepts and philosophies. But then I got to ask myself, am I really progressing? No, but you know what? I think the feeling that I'm getting from this satsang is a lot more important. That's passion. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong or right with it. That's called passion. Because I'm looking, like I'm asking, what is this giving me? It's giving me so much that I crave. Now that's okay. We all have a need for love and connection, but I have to expand my mind and say, but is this aligned with that inner conscience that's speaking to me and saying there is more, there's difference, there is more to this than what I'm doing right now? Am I listening to that? The moment I listen to that, and that takes courage to say, you know what? As much as I love this group and this group loves me, it's very hard to leave, but I got to do it for my own sake, for my own well-being. Leaving, that's called dispassion. I'm not leaving to hurt them. I'm leaving because I'm listening to my inner conscience. It's constantly telling me, move forward, move forward, move forward, keep on rising, never stop. So dispassion is just listening and being very sensitive to your inner conscience that's telling you what's next. There is some other chapter waiting for you. It needs to be opened. Stop postponing it. The moment I open it, that constant opening the new page to see what is next, that's called dispassion. Passion, on the other hand, is when I'm so immersed by the story that I want to go read it again, on and on, because it's so warm and fuzzy and so much love there. And I'm like, yeah, I want to put that aside, all those other things. This is so comfortable. You have to come out of that comfort zone, because comfort zone is comfortable, but it doesn't mean that it's going to give you the evolution that you crave for. So this passion is really having the courage to come out of our comfort zone.
Wonderful. That's a beautifully practical way of, understanding what dispassion is. And can I also understand that one of the practices by which one can sharpen or develop dispassion in your daily life is by continually doing the process of Neti Neti?
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned that it might make you feel a certain way, but you have to see even that as something that needs to be negated and move forward, taking only the truth that is underlying it.
I think this is going back to what you said earlier, this Mahayana Buddhism. I honor it, and I don't put scores down, because they all have they all speak to a certain mind.
Certainly.
Now, they're very good at neti neti. And so neti neti, that too becomes another, I become passionate for neti neti. You see this?
Right.
So now I keep on this, it becomes my means that I'm comfortable. You hurt me, I just discard that. Customer hurts me, I discard that. So now again, I'm preserving this individual who keeps on netting the entire world. There's still an individual that keeps on sustaining itself because there's a doer of the neti. So now I have to also realize that neti has to stop. It has done its job. And then you need to move forward. I need to say, okay, so I've done enough netis, and it's taught me a certain truth of life, that life is dependent upon many, many, many other things. So everything's interconnected, dependent, and so on. And it's clear. If you know that the table is dependent on the wood, what more can I say? It's one off. I don't need to keep on negating the wood now and the molecules and the atoms. It just goes all the way. So this is neti. Once you understand it, that too has become a wonderful stepping stone. Now the final stepping stone is, okay, so the table resolves into its final substance, its final material cause, which is what makes up everything, including the thinker who's having this conversation and thinking about this. So, right? And I saw the problem. So neti is a summary, is a stepping stone. It is not the final thing.
Absolutely wonderful. And I think the absolute glorious value proposition of Advaita Vedanta, over where we say the perspective of Mahayana Buddhism also stops, is that we say after Neti Neti comes the final all-encompassing step of going back and doing iti iti, taking it all back. Yes.
Yeah, I never heard that, but it's really good.
Credit my teacher who taught me that.
Ah,
So
that's good.
beautiful. So you mentioned, this this method of, the way you go about it and the way you look at it, from certain schools of learning non-duality to coming to Advaita. It would be very valuable to know what, if you can, tell us, what is the method of study that you prescribe to Advaita students based on your teaching experience?
Okay. Instant answer is questioning oneself to the point where you just don't want to do it. I mean, you're questioning yourself on and on and on. And what I mean don't want to do it is when you don't want to do it, that's exactly when you continue questioning. So I think what is missing today is self-testing. There's a lot of Shravanam listening, but when it comes to something that is uncomfortable, that means I'm very passionate towards listening, but I'm not so passionate about self-testing. So this can become another hindrance. And one brilliant way to self-test oneself is to take notes. For example, on my whatever, take your notes, take the notes that you've taken from your teachers or the teachers that supply on their websites. Take those notes and put them on AI. And I say, according to Bloom's taxonomy, Bloom is a man who studied the art of understanding things deeply. And he says at the bottom, it's like a pyramid. Imagine a pyramid. And at the bottom, the least effective way to grasp something is to memorize it. And this is a big thing, especially in Kerala, just memorizing everything. But you're not understanding anything. So it gives me an impression that you're intelligent, but intelligence is not memorization. It's part of it. Now, right at the top is creating. And creating. Right underneath is analysis and then understanding. So even to say, I understand. No, I understand, Sangita, that Satyameti. I understand it's all one. Okay. But that's not the final. There's something called analyzing, even slightly above. Analyzing is looking at your own day-to-day experience and seeing how does this now relate to what I've understood? How do I make that connection? And then even higher is creating. Now, what is creating? Creating involves teaching or self-testing. So now self-testing. So why is the top, like right at the top? And notice at the bottom, this is where a lot of people spend a lot of their time, memorizing, and they think I've done it. But the more you go to the top, the least students you have at the top, because not many people like pain. And when you create questions and you have to answer, you have to really think hard. That's not easy. That's why I say, to the point you don't want to do it, that's exactly why you should do it. Because that's exactly what you need to deepen your understanding, nididhyasanam, to the point where you will gain so much benefit that pure understanding or listening or memorizing will never give you. So I put those notes and I say, according to Bloom's taxonomy, create 6 questions to test my understanding. You will create those questions, start answering, and watch yourself not have a good time, but then watch yourself understand it so much better than you ever thought possible. This is my prescribed way. The second is through mind maps. Mind maps involves taking a software. I use mind map. It allows you to create threads and attach pictures. So see, the way our brains work is like a mind map. It creates associations. Main thread, like topic between Sangita and Andre. And then we talked about Viveka. We talked about differences between Advaita and other schools. And we're now talking about ideal learning methods. Now, ideal learning methods, we have 2 more threads. First of all is self-testing, and the second will be mind maps. Mind maps. Now, when you do mind maps, what are you doing? You're creating. When you create something, whenever there is effort involved, that is exactly what deepens your understanding. The more effort, this is a golden rule that works like magic. The more effort, the more understanding ensues later on. That effort is created through 2 different means. 1, self-testing yourself through questions, and 2, through creating whatever you can do. You can rap it out. You can sing out your understanding if you want. Actually, every morning, this is something that I do, not many people know. Every morning, I've been doing this for years, I rap for 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, nonstop. And
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I love to show this actually, but it's not appropriate right now. Where you
I wouldn't mind if you give us an example. It would be just very interesting for our listeners.
I have to be more comfortable with my audience. I feel a little bit not comfortable now. Yeah.
No problem.
It's basically just rapping, any kind of rap, you know what a rap is, and you're making rhymes. But you also, in that rap for 20 minutes, your mind is just so buzzing. You have to draw so many terms and make sense, and you can't mumble or fumble or trip over your words. So you have to slow down and be very deliberate over what you say. And there's moments when the brain just goes into hyperdrive. And then I'm just speaking really fast and it sounds so good. And I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. So you can see how I'm turning learning into a fun experience. This is my point.
So basically really test out whatever you have learned by making sure that you can, pounce on it from any angle and then still be agile enough to make it really, really clear in your mind.
Absolutely. And just to make this very short and sweet, I know how our dear audience is very short on time. I would say out of all of this, self-testing would be #1 method. You got AI, just throw your notes or a chapter of a book, whatever, into AI. Quote, according to Bloom's taxonomy, generate 3 questions to test my understanding, close quote. That's it.
Wonderful.
And this is it.
Yeah, and it is really, it also is in line with making use of the most advanced methodologies available for us at this point in time, which is also what, is in a sense aligned with the Gita's perspective of being fresh at any point in time. It's not something that's relegated to just the past, but with what's in the present, we can use it to arrive at the truth. So thank you. That was extremely valuable. And I should say, not anything I've heard before, the Bloom's taxonomy and, my maps. And in that, I just had a question. You mentioned in the pyramid, there is memorizing or rote learning is understandably at the bottom, then comes understanding, then it's analysis. And you said at the top, there is self-testing and teaching, right?
Yeah, so creating is at the top, creating. Now, so there was, yeah. So my own addition to creating, officially it's creating, but my own understanding is 2 examples. Is one is teaching it or sharing it in a satsang environment, like you're doing in the Vedanta Boston group, or testing. So we all kind of come into groups together and we have to answer the question in our own unique understanding, whatever we think how it is, that is what we deliver to our dear partner. And it's a wonderful practice to do in groups where you give a piece of paper to your students and you print them out. So you have the questions ready and everyone has to answer, you know, in a group of 3 people, that question. And the next person can't say the same thing as the other person says. So someone always has to add a new, fresh perspective, keeping with the truth.
Wow.
And this is wonderful. I've done it in my just last retreat here in Europe, and it not only that, but I love that it connects people. It really brings people closer together, and they can always go into different groups so that everyone gets to know each other really well, and you build lifetime relationships, which is for me more joyful than teaching, seeing how students are connecting together and they have someone to talk to.
It sounds really like the ideal goals of teaching being met, the way you're saying, and what if it's creating that. So when you said teaching is also a part of creating, you meant the satsang kind of a teaching wherein there is the same self-testing happening in a different sense, but still happening continuously. Is that why teaching is also there with the self-testing?
Yeah. Yeah, so teaching is paraphrasing it in your own words and answering somebody else's questions. Then you have to create. You have to create what you understood, what you memorized, what you analyzed. You have to create it into a cohesive argument and transfer it to the other person for them not to show that I've got any gaps in my understanding. So this means that, look at that, how everything is in one, and I deliver that statement, and then I wait for the other person, and I have to now back and forth with them. So it's all things at once when we have to create or deliver or teach or share, and we get feedback. And feedback is so important to expose our flaws, which we thought we have understood very well. And this is the privilege of sharing or creating and delivering, because it's very easy cooked up in the brain, isn't it? I've got it down 100%. The moment I have to argue someone or share it from, you know, verbalize it, instantly your gaps get shown. And that's exactly what I need to transform.
Exactly. Well put. And we also have traditional wisdom which says that, you know, in teaching, you learn it that much more again. It's traditional wisdom statement. So thank you for explaining that so clearly and giving us these practical tools of, you know, that we can test out or take it out for a spin, as one might say, to test out how well it's doing. Now, Andre, how important would you say studying of Sanskrit is to all of this mission?
As a Westerner, I would have a different, or maybe not, take on this. So I know in India, Indians are great with languages because that's the privilege of the country. And this can help you a lot. So for me, Sanskrit was a language that always held sacredness to it since a child, maybe 16. I think Latin also. I couldn't understand why. Just when you hear this word, it's just talking to you. And when I began to learn it, I think 28, 29, I think it was the most frustrating experience ever in my life.
How
I
could
mean,
it be? Yes.
yeah, I mean, pulling hair is an understatement. This was just more than that. And especially for a Westerner who has to learn Devanagari and plus think and plus put verbs at the end. And that's not how we do it in English. It was just mind-bogglingly difficult. And I'm grateful that it was difficult because I think nothing afterwards in life will ever be even close. So number one, it teaches you to be okay now with everything else because you're like, hey, I went through Sanskrit, so this is like piece of cake. So it teaches you resilience, number one, to obviously memorize it. All of that Bloom's taxonomy, every one of them, memorizing to creating, all of that Sanskrit addresses. So in my opinion, that's why it's so painful, but that's why it's so beneficial at the same time, because it exercises your memory, And then, you got Sunday, everyone left the class, that's when.
But one of the known effects of Sanskrit, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I had it all now, Sunday, okay, goodbye. So that's next level. So in my vision, Sanskrit is an incredible language and lifelong tool to keep yourself unbelievably sharp and attuned and keep it to minimize chances of dementia, of Alzheimer's, of you know problems with remembering. All of that, for me, Sanskrit is a purpose for, more so than the scriptures. For me, Sanskrit is not about the scriptures. It is more about keeping your mind sharp. Now, speaking of the scriptures, I would say for a teacher, it helps quite a bit. It's still possible to teach Vedanta without knowing Sanskrit. You just have to learn the basic words. But I say for a teacher, it helps quite a bit. For understanding the truth, you just have to know the basic words and explain them really well in English. And I found in my experience, there is nothing that I can't say in English that I can say in Sanskrit. They're equal languages. They can both communicate the same thing if you use your language in an intelligent manner. I know a lot of people will say there are Sanskrit words that there's no English equivalent. That is true, but there is always an equivalent if you explain it. So
For the
summary.
yeah.
Number one, excellent for memory. For that reason, it's a lifelong thing, but so is any language. You can take up other languages if you want. Two, it really just goes back to number one. Great for memory, great for brain, great for creating, great for resilience, great for keeping you really, on your toes.
Wonderful. And that seems to be very well corroborated by, with the data we have of a lot of Vedic Pandits and Sanskrit Pandits throughout centuries in India. They have demonstrated sharp memory well into their later years and also this alertness about learning anything new at later stages in their life, showing agility of the brain. So wonderful point, Andre. You were talking about being a teacher, and which is, of course, a privilege you have as well. And I wanted to know, there is an understanding that for a good Vedantic teacher in our scriptures, one of the pointers is he needs to be Shrotriya and Brahmanishta, one of the, two of the qualities, two of the few other qualities that are mentioned. So, since you have a gift of looking at everything practically and making it, relevant practically, how would you address this problem, especially in a world of proliferation of YouTube gurus and a lot of who very convincingly prescribe or promise quick fix enlightenment or quick fix Vedanta crash courses? How would you go about, or how would you advise one to go about finding a trustworthy guru that has these qualities?
First of all, there will always be a proliferation of behind the monitor gurus. And with all the respect, I think just to have the motivation to teach, you have to have something in you, number one. There is always the other extreme, which I don't really connect with, trying to be famous. I don't know how that works, but I'm sure there are people like that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who are sincerely trying to establish a presence and to help out, to reach out. But what they don't understand is that a teacher's job is to constantly expose themselves to worldly challenges. Because if I am holding unresolved issues as a teacher, that's going to unconsciously affect my students. It's going to come out through my words, through the way that I deliver.
Wow, yes.
And the students cannot pick this up because it's underlining subconscious communication. So now I have to come back as a teacher and say, am I resolving my own stuff? Am I working out on my own mind? Because it is mind to mind exchange. I could be saying the same thing. The knowledge is the same, but every word is wrapped by my personality.
Shaktipat.
Look at that. Every word is wrapped by my experience, by the how I treat other people. And I keep on delivering thousands of words to YouTube audience or to people. And that is going to affect the person. Now, as the person gets affected on the other side, they're going to develop a certain relationship. And that's going to help them to clear things up, obviously, to clear up their own issues. Now, as they clear up their own issues, their mind will naturally reach to a state and say, I'm not growing anymore. I need more. Now it's time to find someone else. So this whole finding someone else, it's actually automatic. It's built into creation because your own inner conscience is always speaking to you. And as those wannabe gurus, whoever they are, right? Let's not call them wannabe, just people who are trying to do the best they can. They're going to help you anyway. And as you get helped anyway, you're going to then say, okay, but there's still a hole in me. There's still gaps. And I want those gaps plugged. And thus, you're going to naturally go elsewhere. This is exactly as we started this journey, my own journey, where so many teachers were in my life. And they all did their part. They all cleared up notions about reality. But then as they did that, the mind naturally wanted something more. Thus, it goes to the Bhagavad Gita and it says, now finally, it all makes sense. It's all been brought together. So every one of them did their part. They were a stepping stone. In that same way, how does a student, a sincere person who genuinely wants to just get it, wants all this, nonsense cut out. I don't want any fluff. Just give it to me straight. Stop wasting my time and tell me, help me out because I've been searching for years and I want this resolved as soon as possible in a genuine manner without shortcuts. I'm willing to do the hard work, but don't fool me, please. So that kind of mentality, that's a sincere seeker. So going to come to that place anyway because it's deduction. I'm going to reduce, get those who have done their work, and I'm going to innocently keep on moving forward until somehow they meet someone, they look at an interview, they go, who's this person? Let me go on their website. They got an event going on. Let's join that. That kind of makes sense. They stay, and slowly they build a relationship. They build rapport with face-to-face, a living person, and maybe they even go to their retreat, to their so on. And this is how it happens. So it's very difficult to pinpoint how, but if there's one thing for sure, it happens through you make your zigzags left and right. And by Ishvara's grace, you come to the right person who puts it all together and also meets you where you're at. As we said earlier on, meets you where you're at. And this person most likely would be, I'm not going to say who they are, but if there's one thing that we know, you can't say that a wise person is only one particular personality. Mahabharata is very clear. We had Vidur, we had Krishna, we had Vyasa. They're all different personalities. Krishna is very active and cheerful and dynamic. Vidur was like more behind the scenes, still doing his part. Vyasa was like more quiet, but still people are coming up to him asking for advice. So totally different personalities. They all understand who they are and the nature of reality. So hopefully the person comes to see this, and when they do, they've probably already matured enough to look past the personality and connect with the knowledge. Rather than looking at the flaws of the teacher, they're too young, they're too old, they're a little bit this or that. They can put that aside and they're connecting to the knowledge. That's maturity of the mind. Until then, it's going to be a lot of, what do they know? They don't know this. I doubt who they are. The wise person is only in the books. They're only the Tibet. They're only in the 1940s, Yogananda, only they're enlightened. All of this has now cleared up. All they're connecting to now is this makes sense. So it's a journey.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And how would you, as a corollary to that, how would you say someone can know if they are truly progressing on the path of Vedanta versus getting caught in concepts?
Okay. It is personal. I think we have to bring that question to basic. How do you know you're progressing when you learn something new? Let's say, a car, you're learning how to drive a car, something very simple. And there is frustration initially, there is unfamiliarity, and there is doubt. There is voices of diminishment, like, I'm never going to get this, I'm not good enough. But how do you know you're progressing? The fact that you're coming back tomorrow, that's how that's how you're progressing. If you weren't progressing, you would stop. Okay. So the fact that you came back, even if you're frustrated, that is progression of itself. So we have to drop this idea how progression is supposed to look like, because we always kind of like have these images in our minds and we go, okay, that person is showing incredible progress. And that is, and so we see ourselves in that person. So now we try to make us them. So you have to drop this notion and understand that progression comes in many flavors. And it's not linear. It's more like a stock market. Sometimes we go down. We call it going 2 steps back to go 1 step forward. It's not 1 step forward. Sometimes I go 3 steps back and I make an error. And I say, my goodness, I've been studying the Gita for 8 years and I still disregarded this person. I came with the best intentions, but the way that I delivered it was harsh. And now he's telling me that, I've got a spiritual ego. And I thought about, yeah, you know what? He's got a good point. Even if I came from good intentions, I still could have delivered it much better. Okay, so now let me go and improvise this conversation next time. How will I act differently next time? Okay, next time I will ask him Socratic questioning. I would say, can you give me what other ways could we look at this? Instead of me giving him a lecture or her a lecture, let me engage through questioning. And so, okay, so this is what I would do. Let me put this on my little yellow Post-it note and put it on the monitor and make sure that next time I get confronted, this is going to happen. Next time you get confronted, and that's exactly what you do. That's called progression. So you're working with your responses, you're recognizing your errors or your areas of improvement and ensuring next time I would do it differently. And then you do it differently. Do it differently. That is progress.
So stick with it and build it 1 step at a time.
1 step at a time, and use what you're getting, the responses you're getting as feedback, how well I am doing. Because if all that is here is order, intelligent order, then by definition, everything should work in harmony. But the fact that there was no harmony between me and someone else shows that there is some gaps in my understanding or my delivery and some gaps on the other side. And so I can't really affect them, but I can definitely affect the gaps in my own understanding. Because by definition, there should be harmony because there is only harmony. But the fact there was no harmony shows that I was not in alignment with harmony, with Ishvara. Therefore, I have to bring myself into harmony by asking, what different will I do next time? That's called progress.
Wonderful. And thank you for also emphasizing on the operative word being harmony, because it should be one of the very closely related aspects for the end goal of Ananda, as we say, nature of Brahman being Satchit Ananda. When it comes to Ananda, it cannot happen without harmony, I feel, at somewhere in its foundation.
Yeah,
So
good point.
thank you for, bringing that perspective as well. You mentioned a beautiful point, or a rather subtle point, Andre, about the fact that it could be the same concept, it could be the same even words, but the greatness of student-teacher relationship, as we have known it in India or any other civilization, and why it is so effective is the teacher is also transmitting a part of herself or himself to the student. And that's when you mentioned that it's not, it will never be enough to just know it. It has to be something that a person has resolved completely within themselves when they are transmitting through. Now, a
Mm.
slightly tangential question on this, just based on your experience, or if you have seen this in course of your life, is it still possible for someone that's self-realized to still have certain unresolved psychological patterns? Do you believe this is
Yes.
possible, or it's still just an indication that self-realization hasn't been achieved yet?
Yeah, so we call that Dehavasana. So you see, we still carry an instrument, a mind, and this mind has been indoctrinated since childhood. And so it's going to have, a way that it communicates. It's going to make errors. We don't have all knowledge. At any moment of time, we don't have all knowledge. And by virtue of not having all knowledge, we're going to make mistakes. And those mistakes are going to come through as what someone else may say, dot, 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 therefore they're not enlightened. But it's got nothing to do with enlightenment. It's just got to do with a mind that doesn't know everything. That is why even if one knows the truth of who they are and they've reconciled all differences, there is still literally physical neurons that have been embedded for years. And those neurons will make me see things in a certain way. They will make me maybe lose my temper prematurely. They will make me, have some, unpleasant thoughts about someone. But it doesn't negate understanding this. It doesn't negate the fact that everything is pervaded by one substance. So we have to get a little bit realistic that we cannot attribute. I say this in my class in a retreat. There's a tendency to attribute satyam onto mithya. There's a tendency to attribute that which is pure, that which is completely nirgunam, that which is completely clean. There's a tendency to attribute that onto our body and mind. So we want to make the body and mind 100% pure, 100% perfect, 100. That's never going to happen. See the error? It's a constant error I see that is in even in Advaita. We're looking for this perfect guru, perfect words, perfect humor, perfect, no quirks, no errors. Everything there about their delivery is just godly. This is unrealistic and it will never happen because no human being, number one, has all knowledge. They're all going to make mistakes. Number two, you're still dealing with childhood trauma and lifetimes of indoctrinations passed onto the mind, samskaras. You're still dealing with culture. Even culture that we're in can affect how we do things that may not be compatible with some other culture. And so that culture say, hey, you're not clean. But in our culture, no, I am clean, right? So there's a little bit of that too. Then there is the weather. Sometimes the weather can affect my mood. Then there is maybe some loud noise. The fan can be a little bit annoying. And maybe when I was a child, my mom was in pain and the fan was going on. And so I associated pain to concern of my mom. And now I hear the same fan and now it induces the same concern. And students see this on me. I don't even know what's going on because my subconscious is re-remembering what happened 20 years ago. And now my students think, oh, look, he's in some kind of a concern. He's not enlightened or she's, right? So you can see how many variables are constantly affecting this instrument. And thus, we can't say that the instrument will ever be perfect, but it can still understand the truth 100%. So that's why we say there's relative antahkarana, inner instrument purity, but never ever complete. This is a utopian dream that comes out of era of ignorance. And the ignorance is that I want to take Brahman and attribute Brahman onto the mind. I want to attribute Ishvara and make Ishvara the mind. Otherwise, if the person knew everything, then I'll just say to the Mr. Enlightened person, oh, you know everything. Okay, go fly an airplane.
Mhm.
Go ahead, conduit. That means you don't know everything.
So you wonderfully emphasized on two keywords. One is unrealistic, and the phrase that within this time frame or within this body mind complex, it's never going to happen. What we were just talking about. So that brings it very close to things being under the control of Maya. That's given as one of the plausible explanation. So I'd love to know from you as a Vedanta Acharya, and what do you understand as Maya? And in simple terms, how would you please explain it uh, from your understanding?
Sure. So when you're in deep sleep, there is a potential in you, in a conscious being. That potential, there's nothing to say about it because it's in potential. But then that potential will manifest eventually into a wonderful, complex, beautifully made world of laws and orders of time and space. And characters will be participating in that world and discussing what this Maya is,
Mhm.
and who they are. And then again, the whole story resolves into potential. So Maya just means potential. That means knowledge and power in potential. Another metaphor is if you take a seed. A seed is fascinating because if I grind that seed, I will only see dust.
Mm.
But inside that seed, there is potential for a very complex world called tree. And that tree will know exactly how deep the roots will go, how tall the tree will grow, how to convert sunlight into photosynthesis, into energy, what kind of fruits it will bear, what vitamins those fruits will bear, what color and what the skin will look like, how far the tree wide will it grow, how will it respond to the seasons, how will it give off, ingest the carbon dioxide and expel out air? All of that, all these orders and laws and responses and interactions, and ability to hold itself against strong winds. So much knowledge is inside that seed, and yet I don't see that intelligence. I don't see it. So what is Maya? Maya is like that intelligence inside the seed in potential. And when that seed comes out in the form of a tree, now you say, wow, this is a wonderful, intelligent creation. Therefore, then we infer by the fact that the tree is well put together and it can have all these complex processes going on, shows me that its very cause must be thus intelligent. And since that tree wasn't there once upon a time, then that intelligence is also meaning it was in potential. And now that same intelligence is in full glory. It's expressing its glory as a tree. So summary, what is Maya? Maya is knowledge and power. Obviously, there's a power to put that intelligence together. So it's knowledge and power in potential.
So the power of Brahman, as we understand. I was also, curious along these lines, in the framework of Advaita that you grasp and you teach. Would you distinguish it from Mithya?
Maya from Mithya? So Mithya would have, yeah, so once that tree comes out, and then we have to now trace its cause, because all we see is the effect. So now the way to trace the cause, like how it all resolves into that intelligence, you have to start analyzing what you got. I only have a tree. So I can't just go to intelligence. I have to do it systematically, little by little, until I resolve it all the way back into its cause. So I say, well, if you look at that fruit, it's made of, whatever, petals and seeds and skin. And the skin is made of just molecules, and molecules are made of tinier particles. Particles also depend on um, time and space. Now, if I look at that particle, that atom, I see something very interesting. I see that those atoms, they don't have intelligence in them. They're just protons and neutrons, electrons. I don't see, but then I see, but how is that atom putting itself together in such a way to create these larger assemblies and to a point where it's all the way up to a seed? How does it do that? And then the seed puts itself together with, with the pulp of the fruit, and it creates now fruit. And the fruit, it attaches itself to the rest of the tree. So if I analyze into the nature of this creation, into this tree, I will see that it has a dependence upon something else. Nothing's kind of out of place. Everything is well put together. So this dependence is what we call the word Mithya. So when you reduce this and you analyze the structure of the tree, you say that the tree is totally dependent on the air, the sunlight, and the very components that make up the tree are made of, smaller particles, smaller constituents, so that everything about the creation, about this tree, is Mithya, because Mithya means that which is dependent. Everything is dependent upon everything else. And then you reduce it further, and then the methodology will show you that ultimately it all reduces into intelligence. Because if I look at the fruit, it's like, is it a fruit or is it atoms? Because it's nothing but atoms put together that looks like a fruit. So what am I eating? A bunch of atoms or a fruit? Well, depends on what you want to call it. So, but there's one thing for sure. I can't really find the fruit, because the fruit can be reduced down to atoms. And I can't really find the atoms, because the atom is reduced down to protons, neutrons, and electrons, something smaller. I can't really find that because it's just quarks. And quarks, this is a subatomic world, is very fascinating, because a quark is just possibilities of mass, spin, and charge. So this means the three values of whether it's quark up or down, which makes up the proton or the neutron, that was just in potential as a value, either quark up or quark down. That's what makes the proton or the neutron. And the spin, that's the spin, the charge of the electron was also in a state of potential. So now, and this is still at the quantum world. We're not even at the Vedantic world. So the quantum physics would just show you that you can't really find the fruit, because it's just atoms, can't really find the atoms. It's just particles. You can't find particles because they were in potential themselves. And they're constantly collapsing that potential to obtain as either a proton or a neutron. Like, how is this possible? And now if you go even further, like, what determines how far that electron will be from the atomic nucleus? The atomic nucleus is a bunch of protons and neutrons put together. What determines whether the electron, the electric field, the electrons will be this far or this far? What determines that? That's called intelligence. If it was just one little bit closer, it would not be an atom anymore. It would not function like an atom. Now, what determines if it's, a simple example, what says that if you take your genes, your adenine, because it's made of four bases, four molecules. If you take adenine, it's carbon 5, hydrogen 5, and nitrogen 5. So 5, 5, 5. Now, if you take your guanine, that's the G. If you take guanine, it's also carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen, 5, 5, 5. But then there's one oxygen. So I think it's one oxygen. So it's one atom plus makes the entirely a different molecule. And you put those two molecules together and you have a strand called your genome. Like, what determines this? Why is it not 6 carbon? Why is it not 8 carbon? Because if it was 6 carbon, it would not be adenine anymore. And therefore it would not be your genes anymore. So what I'm showing is everywhere across the board, everything is dependent upon itself and also dependent upon the very intelligence to make it work and function and make this whole assembly work together. That is what Mithya means. Now, finally, how is Mithya connected to Maya? Because even Maya intelligence depends on the presence of consciousness. And then how do you show this? Easy. If you just take, because Maya, as we said, means intelligence. Now, just go at a microcosmic. Can you have a thought? Because a thought is just intelligence. It's just intelligence obtaining as a thought. Can you have a thought outside a conscious being? No. In other words, it depends on a conscious being, the presence of a conscious being. So even intelligence itself is Mithya in relative to the conscious being. So therefore, it closes the the whole vision.
Excellently put, Andrew. Thank you so much for that, wonderfully comprehensive take on two of the most trickiest subjects or topics as we understand in the Advaita dictionary. Now, bringing it back to the final question, because it was just so exhilarating to know that you were motivated by the pursuit of moksha alone, to discard all of your previous life. And that's what was the turning point to go on this path with all the vigor and all the sincerity. Tell me, do you think of moksha, or liberation as we call of it, as an event, a realization, or a shift in understanding? How would you put it?
Event, as far as an event that has led you from your hard work. As far as event is concerned, it's an event based on your own hard work. So there's nothing in this world that we can observe that doesn't come from a prior many causes put together. We may say, oh, it's just an event. It happened out of accident. But if you analyze that event and you look at the history, there are many things that took place before. And so as far as event is concerned, you can call it an event, but that's because of all of the invisible prior work that has taken place. Now, I'm not talking about past lives, because we can't work with that. We can only work with this life here. So yes, moksha is hard work. It's just like, I compare it to building a business. Someone said this beautiful statement. They said, if a person spend as much time on moksha as they spend on building a venture or their business, we would have so many liberated people. I thought this is incredible, because it is really just thinking, using your hard work, that creation, that Bloom's taxonomy, really struggling to figure it out. It's not easy. And so my understanding is that moksha, like anything, does require you to work at it, to think about it, to have that genuine reason for moksha. That's even more important, reason. It has to be very like, why do I even want it? What's the importance of it? What's the implications of moksha? Without reason, everything falls apart. Without reason, the business falls apart. Like, why do I want a business? What are my reasons? There has to be one major reason that is so compelling, so juicy, so sweet, and realistic at the same time, that you are willing to go the extra mile to figure it out. And that's going to give you so much self-trust, self-faith, and motivation and dedication to pull it through. Like anything, persistence, determination, and commitment. And that comes through having very clear purpose. Why am I going through this journey? Now, for me, it was very clear. I used logic. The logic was because I may not know my past lives. I don't remember what they are. But I can assure you this. I've been a mother, a father, a king, a queen, a murderer, this or that. I've been everything. Now, what has all of that led me to? One more body. So this means if I try to just replicate, I've already done that before. What's the point? So I thought, so the only way possible, the only thing that's left is moksha. Okay, let's pursue that. So that was a personal little narrative that was going on, rather than being told by someone else. It has to be a personal thing. So as far as event is concerned, everything is an event, but it's an event that comes through sincere, hard work. It's not an accident. It's not, you can't say Ishvara likes you, so it's going to bless you a thunderbolt of moksha. Maybe he has, but it's only blessed you because you blessed yourself through your own hard work. It is purushartha, after all. It's your self-effort. So yes, I can get Ishvara to bless me moksha, to remove that final veil of ignorance that makes me think I'm as good as this instrument. That's absolutely possible. But what work are you going to do? Says Ishvara. Nothing comes for free. Are you contributing? Are you giving your time? Are you donating some charity? Are you, thinking the right way? Are you in line with harmony of my orders and laws, which I can't even cheat? Even Krishna couldn't stop his own death, his own body. I can't cheat my own laws, says Ishvara. So Ishvara says, you want moksha? I would love to give you that, my dear child, but I can't until you help me out. And the way to help me out is you need to align yourself to my order. And where is that alignment found? In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Upanishads.
Wow.
Oh, that makes sense. Therefore, I will now go and do that. There's no skipping. Notice how there's no skipping. And this is why that whole journey of years of Neo, with all due respect to that, it didn't work. Because as much as I was sincere, I was not aligned to the order. I was unknowingly cheating the system, and it doesn't work because I didn't create this order. It's created by the creator. It's like a computer game. If you can the level, what's the only way the player in a computer game can pass? By abiding to the rules. And who made the computer game? You, the intelligent being. You set up certain points. If you do this, then this will happen. If you do that, then that will happen. That's called dharma. If you try to maybe backstab your friends who are there to help you, then you will lose points. If you help them out, the old lady, you will gain new points. And so the player, once they're inside this computer game, they have no choice but to abide by the rules to pass the new level, because they are also a creation of your own intelligence. And so is the very world a creation of your own intelligence. So the Ishvara sets the rules, and me, the character, while I think I'm the character, have no choice but to align myself to Ishvara's rules of the game. And then Ishvara says, okay, my dear child, I'm very happy. Congratulations. Now here's a guru.
Mm.
And then the guru remains the final veil, a very thin veil. And then suddenly, I am that which I knew all along. I just doubted it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but now there's no doubt. And when there's no doubt, there's never again a moment that you can improve that, because when you understand who you are, you understand that fully. There's no, tomorrow I'm going to understand who I am more. There's no more. It's final. And that final is what we call nirvana, moksha, enlightenment, and so many other words given to it. Rules of the game.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us that take on what moksha is through all of these, concepts that we have been talking about in this podcast. I really want to thank you, Andre, for this crystal clear clarity with which you have shared with us your knowledge and understanding of all the questions that we had the opportunity to present to you today. Sure, it will be very inspiring to a whole lot of audience that will benefit from this from various different perspectives, your unique background notwithstanding. And thank you for doing it with so much interest and what I can only say perspective of a genuine teacher's heart. Thank you for taking us without any shortcuts and giving a few through all our questions. As a last part of this podcast, we would love for you to tell us where your next retreat is, and if you can please share your website where our listeners would love to go and check out if they can benefit from what you have to offer, and how can one support your work. If you can please.
Okay. So this is the part where I usually like to offer to someone else, but okay. So the audience would like to know how to reach out to me at Yes Vedanta, yesvedanta.com. You're basically saying yes to Vedanta. That's why it's called Yes Vedanta. You're saying yes to life, yes to the truth. And at the bottom, you will see the upcoming retreats. I'm yet to put up, but there's one in India in January or February. I have a host. I have to organize. I have to ask him. And there will also be in Europe next year in July. It will be on the website. And if the visitor would like to be subscribed, they can go at the bottom of the website called Join, enter their email, and I will email everyone when the next retreat in India is coming up soon, around January, I think it's January. It will be 10 days, and I love it being there. It's very hot. It's called Karnataka, near Udupi.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, it's going to be very hot, at least for me. And we're
Very
probably going to visit the Krishna, obviously, temple.
nice.
And it's by the beach, so you can also chill out, relax. It's 4 sessions per day. There's going to be questions at the end of each session because remember that taxonomy creating. So discussions, I make sure that we all become friends. This is my first priority. I realize this through the years. It's much more important that we form friends, and then the teaching can accelerate so much easier. So summary, join the mailing list at the bottom, or you can also subscribe to my Sunday weekly Bhagavad Gita lessons, practical, as you've now got to know me. Events on the top, and then you will see the banner. Click on it and subscribe, and then I'll give you the Zoom link.
Is there a YouTube channel for this, or is it just the website that the viewers can go to
I think it's YouTube/yes Vedanta.
by the same name?
You
Okay.
see, I really don't even know what my YouTube channel is. I just put videos up, yeah.
It's basically under Yes Vedanta. Whatever we want to know would be there on the website, and then viewers can go through that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I want to thank the audience for listening to me, and I, whatever I've helped you, I'm glad I helped you if I did. So
I certainly did. And again, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and your journey with all of us. And I would, with your consent, end this podcast with the Shanti mantra, praying for the peace of everybody and everybody that we have not even yet connected with. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Shanti. Thank you and namaste again, Andre. We hope to speak to you
thanks.
again. Yeah. Namaste.